I'm Carolyn Hill. I'm editor-in-chief of Legal IT Insider, and I'm joined on Litera TV today by Jana Blount, who is changemaker at DLA Piper. Hi, Jana.
Hello, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure, yeah.
We are here to talk about your role and some of the changes that you've brought in at DLA Piper, which is pretty unusual in my experience. I've not had a conversation with someone who has the title changemaker, so it's pretty cool. I guess you must hear that quite a lot.
Sometimes, yeah. It was actually probably one of the hardest bits of the new role was deciding what I should be called, and trying to push the boundaries a little bit without going too far where people just thought, oh my gosh, get over yourself. So that's how we came up with changemaker.
I think it definitely gets attention. That's a good thing. So let me introduce you properly first. So you are a former lawyer. You work at DLA Piper. You work with on the Change Council with Simon Levine, the CEO, and your role. We're going to go on to talk more about this, and I'm going to let you do the talking. But you're developing the radical change. I think the way it's described is you're developing the radical change strategy of the firm, and strategy and initiatives for the firm. Is that right?
Yeah. So far, so good.
So far, so good. And so you not only define, and this is one of my big questions. You define. You talk about what's radical, and also what projects you need to make change happen. But rather than me talking about what I know about the council, tell us about it. So what is the Change Council, and when was it set up?
Sure. So Simon was re-elected about 2.5-ish years ago, and in his manifesto, it was 2 pages long, and 1 page was dedicated to change, and how we needed to, as a firm, to shift from looking at change and innovation as to how we can do things and improve what we currently do, and actually start to tackle what else. What does that future legal law firm or professional services outfit do? What's the client experience? How are we going to change and be different and move forward? And so that was really the impetus behind saying radical change and making this shift from innovation to saying it's about change, and there's different types of change. And the change that I lead is in the radical space, which is all about what else, what can we do for our clients? So change doesn't usually happen, and you don't get brilliant ideas sitting by yourself in front of your computer in your room or anywhere.
Oh, well, I do, obviously.
Oh, well, of course you do. Well, I don't. So, and Simon and I were talking about this, and we thought, well, we need to gather a group of diverse people that represent different areas, different practice groups, different professions from across the firm to come together and think about, well, what does it mean to be radical as a professional legal services company or firm, and what should we do? How do we make that happen? So that's who the Change Council is. It's a member, there's 13 members currently. Again, some are partners, some are associates, some are in marketing, some are in IT, really trying to get that diversity of thought to come together and help us define what we should be doing here.
Yeah, okay. And because people were put forward for the council, weren't they? They had quite a lot of people sort of either volunteer or put forward. I think there was quite a big pool, wasn't there? And you got selected effectively.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not you, but certainly the 13, the other people on the council.
Absolutely. So off the back of the manifesto, Simon put out a call to arms saying, if you believe in this, if you want to participate, we're forming a change council and change teams. Please nominate someone or put yourself forward with a little mini 500-word application as to why. And so I think I've said this in another interview, but it was very typical of a law firm where for the first bit we sat there and I was like, oh my gosh, no one's responding. And then they all came in right around the deadline. And then it was just a big sigh of relief, but also a lot of excitement because it just showed that this initiative was really resonating right across the firm and people were passionate about trying to make this happen at DLA.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think so that was in 2019. And I think you've described, so you described it as crowdsourcing, is that right? So this is effectively, you kind of one of the purposes is to crowdsource ideas from the firm.
Yeah, so it started with the Change Council and the Change teams and thinking and them defining, okay, our priority areas, which are client experience, digital, and consulting. And then bringing together the Change teams to think about, let's come up with ideas and brainstorm how we can do something in those three areas. And we're using a lot of DLA design thinking. We've created our own bespoke design thinking framework to help facilitate those types of sessions and creative brainstorming. And actually, at a certain point, it was actually one of the first sessions, the Change Council, we had a dinner and we were reflecting on the experience and how that felt for everybody. And we were hearing that working in this way and doing these design thinking sessions was making some of them uncomfortable, and it was shifting their own mindset. And this was a big aha moment for us where we said, ooh, actually, you know what would be quite radical is if everyone in DLA Piper had this shift in mindset and started asking different questions of clients and brainstorming in different ways. So that sparked two things. One was DLA design thinking and rolling that training module out across the firm, or training modules out, as well as let's bring in a platform so that people can share their ideas and get connected to other people that might share their passion or be interested in creating the same types of change as them.
Okay. Yeah, so I've got so many questions. So I want to talk to you about dive a bit more into the idea journey, into
Sure.
the journey of an idea. But I suppose, and I think this, perhaps I'm asking this out of order, but this is what I wanted to know is, how do you decide what is radical? Because that, to me, so for law firms, it's really interesting. So for law firms, like, we aren't always, and I class it as a we, because I'm a former litigator, I still feel like a lawyer deep down. But so we aren't always synonymous with radical ideas. But so how do you decide what is radical?
Sure. So that was actually the question that we started with on the very first session with the Change Council. I was, well, what do we mean by this? How are we going to know if we're achieving our objectives? And we created something called a radical spidergram. So it's a very visual way of charting an idea and seeing if it's hitting our objectives of what we mean by radical, which is it should be empowering, it should be bold, it should be far out, it should be vision or purpose led, and it should take the seemingly impossible and make it possible. So if we get an idea, you can, it's hard to describe this visual thing, but you can start to chart, well, is it hitting all these different aspects? And you can visually say, well, yeah, it's empowering, it's far out, it's vision and purpose led, but actually it's not really taking the seemingly impossible and making it possible. How can we stretch it further and go and keep going and pushing ourselves to get there?
Okay, I'll come back to that. But so tell me about, so I know that for you, one of the interesting things was about this, the fruition of an idea. And I know that it's something that you have thought about a lot. It's about how, I think you've described it as how to make something, how do you make the journey sort of more efficient, perhaps a bit less painful. So describe for me how your process of thinking of how you came up with the process and how it facilitates the firm in really putting their ideas forward most efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. So we looked at it at a lot of different angles, and so lawyers have a lot of ideas, actually. I'm usually very intelligent and I like to solve problems. And so it wasn't that we had a lack of ideas, but as a law firm, in thinking of a traditional law firm structure, it wasn't really necessarily built for facilitating new ideas, new lines of business, new products, and everything else that was coming out from the business. So one aspect was bringing in the platform to allow the crowdsourcing to happen, allow people to share and put their ideas somewhere. But actually, we really need to think about it. Well, how, even taking a step back, if we're asking people to come up with radical ideas or any sort of change ideas, where will they come from? How can we inspire them? Where do they get these ideas from? Again, it's not going to happen in isolation, especially not in our rooms or houses anymore. But you usually need some sort of trigger, something that gives you that aha moment, or what if, or how about, right? So one aspect was partnering with Wired, and now they create bulletins to bring in that external kind of art of the possible, hopefully inspirational ideas or content that spark those ideas. And then once people have an idea, we needed to be very clear in communicating where they go. I have an idea. Who do I talk to? Where do I go? What happens next? So we've been using our DLab virtual platform. You should go there. And then, again, you can't do all ideas. So we needed to work with our service delivery team, our PMO, and the Radical Change team and the Change Council to think about how do we help shape these, vet these, prioritize these ideas. And we actually have somewhere in my DMS a bunch of pictures where I've tried to just chart out this journey of, I've got an idea and what's my pathway? How do I get to the end? How do I actually make this happen?
Do you call it DLab? Is that what?
DLab virtual. So DLA b and then virtual. And
that's the platform where people can sort of put their ideas in, so effectively, is that right? So this is where they start. This is where if you've got an idea, you can just sort of enter on the platform. Is that how it works?
Yeah, so it has 3 sections. We really thought about, why would you go to this platform? So we try to put some of the inspirational content on there. So if you think, anyone can share actually, if you read something and you think, ooh, this is sparking some questions, you can share it. And that's in the Be Inspired section. Okay. And then we have a Get Connected section. So some of our other groups that are trying to generate ideas or change, it's not just radical change, but diversity, inclusion, ESG, they have channels as well. So you can get connected with other people that are passionate about the same type of change that you want to create. And then the third section is, that's Get Connected. And then we have Create the Change. And that's where we have a couple of other channels where you can put in your idea, and then we'll link you up and take you on that journey or pathway forward to go forward.
So do you mind me asking, is that something that you've built internally, or is that because this idea of these ideas platforms is something that I've seen increasingly. Yes. Were you using a third party, or is that something you've built?
We're using a third party, but we have done a lot of our own work on developing it and putting it into the sections and really thinking about how our people would experience it and what would resonate with DLA Piper. So it's with a third party, but a lot of kind of back and forth and development time.
Are you able to say which one? I know some people don't like to endorse, but are you?
I don't mind. It's called Hype. Yeah.
Hype. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. And how do you decide? So there's so many things. So I like this sort of idea of empowering people, but equally, I suppose, for me, one of the things that really that most good solutions start with the client problem, right? So how do you, and that's, I think, perhaps, a few years ago when firms were starting to be innovative, I think perhaps that was one of the disconnects, which I love, which is why I love hearing you talk about legal design, because by necessity, that means, you're probably working with clients and working back from the problem. But so when you have this platform how do you start to filter? So how do you start to say, right, this really, how do I connect this? Does this really answer a client problem? How do you start to filter through these ideas and then perhaps, I suppose, bring in the design element as well? Perhaps bring in the clients. You bring in the clients as just sort of in the filtering process, or how does it work?
So there's a couple of change strategies. So does this hit what we're trying to achieve? Is one of the first things. But actually, I think sometimes in this legal innovation journey, what we've been really, and you've hit the nail on the head, a lot of the client voice and client needs was left out, but also some of the lawyers' needs and voices were left out as well. So I think that's probably why some firms or some legal tech providers have struggled to get uptake in their products. So thinking about all of that and going back to the idea journey, we really do try to use DLA design throughout all of it. So instead of just going straight from, you have an idea, make the business case, who's going to use it, and everything else, we take you through a design sprint. So let's really think about, who are the users, who is your client? Let's go interview them. Let's empathize with them. How would they experience? What is their pain point? What is their pain point that this is addressing? right? Not what's really cool to you, but why would anyone care about this? And I don't want you to tell me why they care about it. I want you to ask them if they care about it. So actually, bringing in the full design thinking sprint to investigate, to make sure you're empathizing, to make sure you're shaping it, and utilizing those brainstorming methods to stretch us to go a bit further and more radical with what we end up with.
That's great. That's great, because it's so often, you're right. A lot of the time it's vendors, but sometimes firms that come up with this idea and they go, "Hey, we've come with this great product," and you go, "Well, what is it? What does it help?" I have to say, this is more particularly in the startup market, where you get perhaps people, particularly where people come from outside of the sector, and they come up with these ideas where you go, right, so A, who else does it, and B, what pain point have you? And they're like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of posts on LinkedIn that are trending, and the author on LinkedIn said something along the lines of the legal tech vendor just assuming she had no idea what technology was or what the space was, and it just completely missing the point. And you don't want to put yourself, I'm not bagging on legal tech vendors, there's some great ones out there, but you don't want to be that person. I mean, because ultimately, as a law firm, we're selling services, right? And you need to sell services in ways that actually make a difference and create value for your clients. And if you can't understand that, then you're probably going to miss the mark when you go and pitch.
And then equally with your with your service, so you make the effort to make sure that it fits in with you've got your service delivery team, you've got your IT team. So presumably you also have to, and your legal project management team, there's going to be overlaps, right? And I guess you need to work out, I guess you've got some kind of process to work out, make sure there's no overlaps, make sure that everyone feels included, make sure it's a sensible way of doing things, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the ideas that we get, we don't have to do a whole design sprint, because actually we do have people or resources or tech that can solve that problem. And so sometimes it's just linking people to the right resources that already exist within DLA, within finance, within IT, within the legal project management, the legal technology team, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of people in DLA Piper. So a good chunk of the ideas is really just kind of matching people up and connecting people to work with the right types of professionals to bring it to life. And then there's some that really need some shaping. And when we do that, the Radical Change team, the Change Council, is in the space of shaping and thinking of what if, how about. And once you get to more of a prototype, we really love this, and this is what we think it can look like, those go out to then Aldersgate Holding. And that's the separate but wholly owned entity that we've created to house some of these new products and new services.
Yes, of course. Yes. So let's talk about some of the ideas that have come to fruition. I think that would be for people, anybody listening in who wants a bit, some indications of how this is translated. So I think one of the first ones, I've certainly written about this, is AI Ascension, which did I pronounce that right?
Ascension, yeah.
Ascension. So it's a cartel risk management platform, which you brought to market in partnership with Reveal. So tell us about that. So one of the things that I like about this, so tell us where the idea came from for starters.
Yeah, so this might bring this whole idea journey conversation to life. Elon Scher was a legal director in our litigation department in London, actually. And he did a lot of cartel investigations work, and he had seen a demo of Reveal and was kind of thinking, actually, there's probably another way of using this where we could create an algorithm that can spot cartel activities rather than us just using it as a law firm to speed up our investigations for clients. What if our clients could have access and they could spot even before it becomes an investigation? That's actually a game changer. And he had this idea, was really trying to work on developing it by himself. And that's hard to do when you're, a legal director in a litigation department. So he got connected to the Change Council. The Change Council heard the idea, and we thought, ooh, there is something here. And actually, it's not just about spotting cartel activity. It's how can we create a risk management platform for our clients? What might that look like? What if we could create a suite of algorithms for our clients that helps them monitor the things that keep them up at night? How can we help them sleep better at night, knowing that things are okay or safe or people are complying in the way that they need them to? So that's when that Elon got paired up with Aldersgate Group, and they've put that out, they've launched it, and they're now thinking about what's next. In addition to the cartel algorithm, what other algorithms can meet those client needs?
Interesting. And because so Reveal, so they're in e-discovery,
Right.
and they acquired a company called NextLP, didn't they? So then they really started to build up their AI capability. So I guess
story engine, yeah.
And I guess so what they did, so just sort of reading through what I wrote at the time. So they turned disparate, unstructured data, including email, communication, business chat, messages, contracts, legal documents, into structured insights. So I suppose you could, there's quite a lot of potential. Where do you see it going in terms of how you develop it? Was that giving away secrets?
No, if it's out there, it's out there. Yeah. But I think that's part of what's so exciting about this is. They have natural language processing algorithms. They have sentiment analysis in there, behavioral analysis in there. And when you combine all of that, you can, as we're trying to do, stretch it beyond e-discovery and thinking about, how you can do that investigation or that litigation quicker. But if you could use that technology and shift it into something else, like we've done with the cartel algorithm, that's quite compelling. So it's working with our clients to think about, well, what else, is this what keeps you up at night? What else? What is keeping you up at night? What is it that you wish you could know? What are the risks that you wish you could spot? And then feeding that back into, okay, now let's develop those and make this a fuller offering beyond.
Is there, this is actually just thinking off the top of my head, to be honest with you, but is there an element, I guess you have to work with willing clients, because for a start, a lot of this stuff doesn't come out of the box, right? So we know that, a lot of this involves quite hard work. And I imagine that it's so great from a relationship perspective once, if you've got a willing client but it takes a lot of work on both sides, doesn't it? It's not just something that you can just kind of plug in and then go, oh, hey, but I guess you're seeing much more appetite of clients to get engaged on this level.
Yeah, and I think it's just how you pitch it to clients. I think what, part of our DLA design journey has been very eye-opening to everyone across the board. I think sometimes people can be a bit hesitant to ask clients questions because you think, I'm the advisor, I should have the answers, they're very busy, will they want to spend this time to talk to me? But actually, when you go to a client, you say, we'd really like to better understand your pain points, your challenges, your opportunities. How can we work with you to help you achieve those or take care of those or alleviate those? Most people are going to say, yes, please. There's no downside to that. Sometimes it can even, I've heard some of my clients describe it as a bit of therapy, like just being able to open up and tell us all the things that they wish we could be doing or they could be doing or we could be creating together. So it's not that we would say, hey, client, go create this algorithm, but it's, hey, client, can we just better understand what would really resonate with you, what would really make a difference for you, and then us try to go away and make it for you.
I'm going to be calling you up after this, don't you? We'll be going, Jana, let me tell you all about my problems. Doesn't work.
Well, maybe that's my new my side gig. I'll start charging for that.
Like, no, that wasn't the purpose.
Side hustle, no.
And then the other one, I know what I was going to ask you. So how does so you've got law and, haven't you? You've got law and this has become part of iSention has become part of the law and offering. How does that fit in? So you've got Aldersgate, but what is law and in terms of they're set up to deliver solutions, but how does that work?
So law and is the umbrella that goes over service delivery, radical change, and Aldersgate. So it's just kind of it's the umbrella, the badge name, what we can, all of the change that we're trying to create, whether that's from our lawyers, using machine learning to do, or different deal rooms to do due diligence in a different way, all the way straight through to Ascension, that all lives under the law and umbrella.
Okay.
And radical change sits under that umbrella as well. Okay. So, you know, in our own change journey, we've done a lot of work in changing. So it was service delivery and quality, then it was service delivery and radical change, then it was service delivery, radical change, and Aldersgate Group. And actually we thought, well, all of this together is really cohesively trying to create this, what else, but it's beyond pure legal advice, just thinking about what else we can be doing. How can we improve? How can we change together? So,
and then one of the other ideas, which has come to fruition, which is called Toco. Yeah, which is launched by you and Aldersgate DLS, which is Digital Ledger Solutions. So that's your own thing, right? So it's part of the Aldersgate.
It's part of Aldersgate, yeah. We've had some partners in there to help us create this, because lawyers, we're not usually people that can create distributed ledger technologies or solutions on our own. But yeah, that's been a lot of work. And one of our Change Council members, Scott Teal, had this idea, and he's been working very hard with teams in Hong Kong to bring this to life. And it's really exciting. It's, you know, you hear a lot about blockchain, Bitcoin, Ethereum, distributed ledgers. We've been hearing about it for years, but I think what's been missing is how can you kind of legitimize that? How can you make that secure? How can you make that commercially viable? And this solution is aimed at tackling those problems. So how can an entity, a company, use these types of platforms in a commercially viable, safe, secure way?
So do you call it a tokenization engine? Is that right?
Yeah. So it's any sort of real assets, whether it's property or art or C substrate or anything. You can tokenize that into tokens. Yeah. The platform allows that from end to end. So it's not just that you have these tokens, but we thought about the contracts and everything else that needs to happen in order for our company to do that legitimately and safely. And that's what Toco does. And we've already, the pilot or proof of concept was tokenizing a piece of art. Yes. And some partners in Hong Kong each have a token that represents a specific actual piece of that art.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Yes, and you're saying that you can tokenize anything from art to property to something a little bit more. Didn't you say that a bit of the ocean or something like that?
So OceanFloor, or anything.
any property. So basically it's a private blockchain, right? So, and is that right? Is that fair to say? I mean, it's just fascinating to me at the moment. So I was looking at it before we spoke. So you provide smart contracts. It's digital asset functionality. Is it proving? It's quite early doors, and I know that you launched it in November, and I know that the member of the council, as you say, is working hard. Is it something that is? Do you have a sense for whether clients are? Is it appealing to clients? Is it going to be a slow burn, or what's the sort of appetite?
I think the clients are really interested in this. I mean, it's just been, again, I think people have been aware of kind of the capabilities that exist on these blockchains or and in these areas, but it was this big question of, is this actually safe? I mean, we know that there's a lot of black market stuff that happens in some of these areas, but actually the concept and the technology and the capability and the functionality is huge. So how do we tackle that and create a safe place? So we're actually a governing member of the Hedera Council, and we create Hedera. We have a node that creates Hedera hash graph, and being part of that governing council has been really helpful, because that's the question that they're trying to answer, is how do you use this type of technology in a safe way to scale it up so that businesses can do it rather than some individuals sat at their desk.
Okay. We're running out of time, but I know that, I mean, you're still working on a lot of ideas, aren't you? So I know you're working with clients on how you provide additional services around sort of, you called it ESG, environmental sustainability, green, and also M&A, is that right? So are we going to see other ideas come to fruition over the next couple of months? What can we expect?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope you just continue to always see new ideas come to fruition. Yeah, absolutely. Again, and it was looking at those different areas from our client's point of view. It's great to be able to provide the deal work from the legal aspect, but what else is it that our clients could really use or need in this space? And how might we do that as DLA Piper? What could that look like? What other areas could we be stretching ourselves to help our clients in their experience of a merger or an acquisition? And same with ESG. I mean, that's what everyone's talking about that. But what do you do? How do you do it? There's just so many questions and things and ideas there, but it's again looking from our client's point of view. What do they need? What could we provide that would really help them navigate what they're trying to achieve as a business or a company in these spaces?
Well, look, Jana, we're out of time, but I really appreciate you joining me. Thank you, and I really look forward to the next iteration of change. And let's catch up again soon.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.